Hey there. I don't have any particular plan for this video, so it's just going to be a random sound assortment using my assortment of random garbage and items. And then I might also be rambling at the same time. It's really funny, ironic, I suppose, in a way, although it is a little bit annoying also. I got a bunch of Blistex because a few months back, for like a year or so, I was having trouble with my lips, and for the longest time I was using Blistex, and it seemed to work quite well. And so I bought a bunch of packs of it because I was like, well, I'm probably going to be using it for the rest of my life, so might as well just get a bunch of it, right? And then I found that I was having like an allergic reaction to Blistex because it's medicated lip balm, so there's something in this. I don't know what it is. Let's see, active ingredients. Dimethicone, maybe? Dimethicone, octinoxate, octisalate. I don't know. I'm not good at pronouncing big words. But yeah, anyway, I found that I was having an allergic reaction to this stuff, so I got a bunch of it and I can't even use it anymore. On the bright side, this stuff is only like $5 a pack, so it's not that big of a deal. It wasn't that big of a loss, but certainly unfortunate. But yeah, the weird lip thing that I was experiencing for quite a while has finally started to subside. I went to the dermatologist and they gave me some sort of topical treatment. You have to have a prescription for it, so it must be pretty strong, whatever it is. Unfortunately, because I was hoping that it would, because for years I never really had a problem. I would just use lip balm and that would be the end of it. I would get chapped lips, but then lip balm would fix that. The whole reason the lip thing started was because like over a year ago, maybe even closer to 2 years ago at this point, I was a dumbass and I was like, you know what? I'm tired of using lip balm. Every day I gotta use lip balm. So I was like, you know what? I got the bright idea. What if I just stop using it, I was like, surely for a little while my lips will get really chapped. But then my body will be like, okay, he's not using lip balm anymore, so we gotta moisturize his lips manually. That's what I thought would happen. Turns out when you stop using lip balm, you just obliterate any chance of your lips ever not being chapped again. So my lips started cracking, and that led to, I guess, some sort of infection. I'm not exactly sure. I know this is probably not the best ASMR talk, but gotta ramble about something, right? So, like, after probably like 2 weeks of trying to not use lip balm, I just was like, okay, clearly this isn't working. So I went back to using lip balm, but I guess the infection was too deep-seated at that point. Lip balm wasn't going to fix it. But I didn't know that at the time. I just figured that my lips were like severely chapped and that it was just going to take a while. So that went on for like a year before I finally caved and went to the dermatologist and was like, all right, I've tried everything and this shit ain't working. And that's when they gave me the stuff that did end up working. But like I said, well, I hadn't said this yet, but I was getting there. I had to establish the story beforehand. The topical they gave me, I was hoping that it would just kind of like cure the problem, and then I could just go back to just using lip balm. But as of right now, I'm in a position where if I stop using what they've given me, it starts to come back. I've tried like going without it for days and then using it again, and then like I'm slowly, very, very slowly getting less dependent on it, it seems, which is nice, but it's just taking a lot longer than I would have expected. But like I said, to be fair, I did have this lip problem for like over a year, I'm pretty sure. So I definitely let it go on way too long before I started seeking an actual, solution. So let that be a lesson to you. If you've got a problem, just go to the dermatologist. Although it was crazy expensive. I mean, I don't have insurance. I don't have health insurance. And even for me, I guess if you don't have health insurance, they just automatically deduct half off of the, visit, which I guess if you have health insurance, it's like a $10 visit maybe. I don't know. Of course, dermatology is one of those fields where it's like, I don't know that that's actually usually covered under most basic health insurance policies, right? I think that's considered like a specialized field that isn't covered. At least, I mean, I'm sure you could get a health insurance plan that has coverage for that, but I don't think the typical plan does. And if you get a plan that does cover that sort of stuff, you're going to be paying more. I could be wrong about that, because again, I don't have health insurance, and I've never really looked into it that much, because I think insurance is a scam, personally. But all that being said, it was pretty expensive. So, I mean, obviously that's a big part of the hesitation, is like, it ended up being like $180 for me, and that was half off. So it was like $360. I paid $180, and I was literally in the room with the doctor for maybe 5 minutes. It's just like, what the fuck, bro? But yeah, in an ironic conclusion to the story at this point in my life right now. So originally, my motivation for not using lip balm and wanting my body to just naturally hydrate my lips was just that I was lazy, and I was like, I don't want to be dependent on these topicals and stuff. I just want to be able to live my life. I wanted to reduce the amount of topicals I was using. And ironically now, at this point, I'm using more topicals for my lips than ever before. So if I just stuck with it, I would have been using less at this point than I am now. That's like pure irony, where the outcome of one of your decisions ends up having the exact opposite, effect that you wanted it to. I set out to reduce the amount of topicals I was using, and ended up increasing the amount that I was using. But that's life. And hey, I think this makes a pretty good tapping sound, so at least I got that out of it. But yeah, doctors and anything in the medical field is just ridiculously expensive. A lot of people will claim and call out America specifically for being bad about that, and that's absolutely true. America's medical coverage system, health insurance and that sort of thing, it sucks. But again, I don't know in other countries that have like universal health care if things like dermatology are covered by that universal health care. It might not be, honestly. Because again, I think that's considered like a specialized field. That's its own thing. But I could be wrong. It's especially like shitty because you go there and you spend 90% of your time in the waiting room, and they give you that like huge sheet, that clipboard with like 30 sheets of stuff on it that you have to fill out. It's like, if I'm going to pay you $180, why don't you fill it out for me? Like, why am I filling this out for myself? I don't know. It's asking me a bunch of questions I don't know the answer to. Like, do I have a history of some rare disease I've never even heard of before in my family? And it's like, I don't know. There's a lot of people in my family. I don't know the hyper specifics of every single ancestor I have, And then you're worried about it because it's like, what if I answer wrong and then they give me some medication and then I fucking die because I didn't know that was like incompatible with my genes or something. I don't know. And then you actually get into the waiting room, or not the waiting room, into the patient's room. And then they look at you and they're like, all right, yep, all right, you need this, all right, have a good day. The lady at the receptionist will help you out. I mean, granted, I get that not everyone is going to have equivalent, like, severity of their problem. My problem with the slip thing was very minor, right? So it's not like I have some massive rash or something, or I'm like, my skin is peeling off and I need a dermatologist to like suture me up or something, So I get that, like, obviously I'm not going to get as much attention, but then the price should be, made equal, right? Unless it is, and you're just leading me to believe that, like, people that actually have real problems are paying the dermatologist, like, thousands of dollars, which would just be insane. But who knows? And then you have insurance, which I don't know that I've ever talked about insurance. I've made jokes because when I do like doctor role plays on this channel, at the end of those, I always love to do like, that'll be $7 billion because, funny. I don't know that I've ever talked about insurance, but my opinion on insurance of any kind, whether that be car insurance, life insurance, house insurance, health insurance, any kind of insurance, I think it's a scam. I don't think it's a scam. I know it's a scam. Because you have to look at insurance as a business. What is insurance? Insurance is a gamble. The gamble is that the amount of money you pay on a monthly basis to this company will be less than some unknown future tragedy that will occur that will end up costing you more if you didn't have the insurance. Makes sense, right? But if you think about it for a second, as a company, they couldn't possibly be successful if they were constantly paying people out more than they were bringing in. That would be negative profit, right? They have to be bringing in more money than they're paying out to people. So if you just look at things statistically, then, you realize the chances of you getting more out of your insurance company than you provide to them as an average individual is negative. You will certainly pay more money to the insurance company than you get out of them. And, accidents happen and freak occurrences happen. Some people are just unlucky, and I guess it's better to be prepared for moments like that. But I feel like that just preys on people's, worry, I think people overinflate in their mind the likelihood of those kinds of occurrences. Like car accidents, for instance. If you ask the average person, they'd probably say car accidents happen quite often. And I guess statistically, as far as transportation goes, car accidents are significantly more common than plane crashes or train derailments and stuff like that, But if you actually look, I don't know. People drive all the time. I'm on the highway and there's 1,000 cars around me at all times, and that happens every day, and it just works. I feel like people fixate on car crashes because when they happen, they're really devastating and they can be very deadly, and cars are expensive. So even if nobody dies, it's a huge loss of money because now I have to go buy a new car. So when they happen, they are very bad. But I feel like they really, in the grand scheme of things, don't happen that much. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm just looking at things wrong, but again, the whole idea of it's just better to be prepared. I just feel better about having insurance because of that off chance. It's again, I just feel like that preys upon people's willingness to fixate on the negatives, that small chance that something bad could happen. It's it's liberating, to just accept that bad things really don't happen all that often, and most people get on with their lives perfectly fine. Unfortunately, as far as I know, I think it's illegal to not have car insurance in America, which is wild. And I mean, in certain states, it's not illegal to not have health insurance, but it is fineable. When you are filing your taxes, you have to pay a fine for not having health insurance in certain states. Luckily, I live in a state where that isn't the case, but that's just wild, especially considering that insurance companies are private companies, but then the government enforces people to use insurance, private insurance. It's what the fuck? I want in on that business, a business where the government enforces the citizens of the country to use your business. I mean, you literally can't lose. It's the perfect business. But yeah, I just think insurance is a scam. Now, to be fair, I mean, you can look at yourself in the mirror, you can look at your life, and you can, make educated decisions. So if you're morbidly obese, for instance, you're probably going to have more health complications than the average person. So maybe for you, it does make sense to have health insurance. But if you're just an average Joe that lives a fairly healthy lifestyle, I feel like health insurance is just really not that important. If you're someone like Steve-O that's on a show like Jackass or something and you're constantly doing crazy stunts that'll probably get you hurt, then yeah, maybe it makes more sense to have health insurance. Or maybe if you're like some extreme sports athlete, you're skydiving or snowboarding or whatever in like remote areas that are like really dangerous, or you're doing dangerous stuff like that, then sure, maybe it makes sense to get health insurance. It's like in those cases, you are accepting that you are not an average individual, and the chances of something bad happening are higher for you than for the average person. But I am not one of those people. I live a very mundane life. So for me, having health insurance is just pointless. Now that I'm thinking about it, I feel like it goes heavily in hand with like the media, because the media is constantly covering a wide area of happenings, right? Of activity. And the media has this strong inclination to fixate on negative things, not only because they perform better for, the studio, for the network, but also just because that's the type of stuff that is just more important to report on, arguably, right? So like if there's like someone getting murdered constantly in your area, it's like, yeah, I think you have the obligation to tell people like, hey, there's a murderer in your area, that sort of thing. But because of that, I feel like people get this unrealistic understanding of the world and what's happening. It's happening all around us. You can see it all the time where, it's in the memes we make, and it's in politics and shit, where it's like you see memes all the time of like a street interview of some random chick. And let's assume for a moment that it's not just completely scripted for the sake of being rage bait, right? Let's say that it is just some random person that they found on the street and started interviewing, and then she has some like dog shit take like, girls should be able to cheat. Or maybe they interview some guy that says guys should be able to cheat. It doesn't matter which way. But then you go to the comments of those videos and you'll always see people that are like, this is why you can't trust girls, or this is why girls suck ass. And it's like, people, they see an example of one person exhibiting one opinion or doing one thing, one person killing someone, or one person getting in a car accident, or one person giving a dog shit opinion, and they extrapolate that to an entire demographic of people. And I get it, as human beings, we aren't really equipped to not do that, right? I don't think humans were prepared for civilization to get as big as it has become. But in that same way, I think people fixate on the bad things that can happen to you in life, right? And they will arbitrarily assume that bad things are more likely to occur to anyone, and that bad things are more likely to occur to them as well as a result, which just, again, leads people to think that insurance is this like really important thing that's like very handy to have. It's very secure, it's safe to get insurance because anything can happen. And I watch the news and all these terrible things are happening, and it's like, for every one person that gets like a fucked up day, there are millions of people that just went about their normal routine nothing bad happened to them. Probably half of them or more had an exceptionally good day. So it's like, I don't know. I wish people wouldn't fixate on the negatives so much. Or at the very least, just understand that when they see something negative happen, that it's okay to like draw attention to it and to understand that what's happening is bad. That's totally acceptable. I'm not saying you should ignore bad things, but just understand that because one bad thing happened doesn't mean that suddenly bad things are super likely to occur. You know, it's just like, they aren't. I think life is good. I think, you know, I think good happens more than bad. But that's just my personal opinion. But anyway, I think we'll end it there. I hope you've enjoyed this video. And, yeah, I will catch you later.